Hi, good afternoon. Today we're going to work on the direct comparison approach for marketing and valuating a property. Mr. and Mrs. Seller have invited you in, and you are sitting at their kitchen table. You've done a walkthrough on the property, and we are looking at a 3-bedroom side split located at 29 Brock Street. It's situated in a great location, close to shopping. It's got 1,324 square feet of living, built on a lot, 60-foot frontage with 115-foot depth, single car garage, and no fireplace. So you're taking your notes, and this is what you put down so far. Over the course of the last year, prices have increased, but the increase was in the first 6 months. There has been no appreciation during the last 6-month period. Building costs for this type of property are regulated at $70 per square foot. A lot sells for $900 per front foot. A fireplace adds $2,000 worth of value. Single garages cost $12,000, double garages $22,000. However, respectively, in valuating, a single garage adds $10,000 and a double garage adds $20,000 to the value. So in your workbook and the paperwork that you've got 5 different comparable properties. Comparable 1, 38 Elgin. Comparable 2, 77 Carlton Street. Comparable 3, 218 Maxwell Avenue. Comparable 4, 121 West Street. And 128 Maple Lane as comparable 5. What I need you to do is take out of your workbooks the subject property spread information as well as the comparable property information. And I want you to X out the things that are completely different and put a check mark across the things that are the same. And then go back. So you've got 5 minutes to do this. There's only 5 properties. There's only 5 pieces of criteria. I want you to go back and on your X's, qualify the difference between the 2 different properties. And ultimately, after 5 minutes, you should be able to come up with the best 3 comparable properties that are relating to our subject one. I'll give you 5 minutes right now. In the meantime, you can work independently, you can work with partners, you can work as a table, discuss amongst yourselves, ask questions if you have to during the time frame. 5 minutes starts now. So our 5 minutes are up. Before we get started discussing the comparables according to the subject property, I want to bring your attention to one thing and the purpose behind us doing the direct comparison approach. It's a weight scale. So what we're trying to do is balance out. We're trying to balance out the subject property with the comparables. And if the comparable is inferior, then our subject property has to drop down in price. If the subject property is inferior, then the comparable property has to drop down in price. So we're always trying to weigh the scales out so that we show the value associated with the comparable property. So our comparable property comparables are comparable 1, comparable 3, comparable 5. 128 Maple Lane, 218 Maxwell Avenue, and 38 Elgin Street, or Elgin Avenue. Those are the 3 properties that are most comparable to our subject property. Now, what I need you to do is keep that paperwork on your table and continue working in your groups, individually or as partners. This spreadsheet here, all that information that you need is all in front of you. So we've already determined that our comparable properties are 1, 3, and 5. I need you to look at all the details that are associated with those properties and put them into this spreadsheet so that we can do our math. And you've got 20 minutes to do that. Anyone has any questions, please feel free to raise their hand, ask out loud. Again, work in partners, work in your groups. So we're coming back now. We've already done all of our numbers. This is the spreadsheet we started with, all blank. This is the spreadsheet that we have now. So all the blocks that are in white, you already had the information for. It's on your paperwork, and it's all part of your comparable. information, your comparable properties information, as well as your subject property. So subject property is all white here. We already had that. The comparables we filled in based on the comparables we chose a few minutes ago. So the colored boxes are the ones that we have to worry about right now and assess. Comparable property number 1, 38 Elgin, has a 55-foot frontage. The first number typically always is your frontage, and that's where the value comes in. So we've got a 60-foot frontage on our subject property, 29 Brock. We've got a 55-foot frontage on our comparable 1, 38 Elgin Avenue. Therefore, we want Elgin Avenue to have a 60-foot frontage in order to be valued at the same number, or so that we can compare the numbers, the value, appropriately. So now we've had to increase the price point of the sale point of this property so that it qualifies for the 60-foot frontage. This one is 64 foot. 218 Maxwell has a 64-foot frontage. Well, that's more than what our comparable property is, so we're going to take away a little bit from that. We're going to take the $3,600 away from that so that it's more appropriately matched with our listing here. And this one, 128 Maple, 60 by 120, the frontage is the same. So we don't have to do anything. There's no adjustment associated with that. Total square feet, the same idea. So we've got 1324 on our subject property. First comparable is 1374. We're going to take a little bit away from that because the square footage is higher. We want to bring that house down to the size of our subject property. 218 Maxwell is at the same square footage. We don't have to adjust that. 1206 is quite a bit lower than our subject property, so we have to give Maple a little bit of love here so that it's more appropriately matched as far as price point is concerned. The garages. Our subject property has at 29 Brock has a 1 car. Comparable 38 Elgin has a 1 car. No adjustments. Maxwell, 1 car, no adjustments. 2 cars on Maple Lane. So we're going to take $10,000 away. No fireplace. There's no fireplace on our subject property. This one on Elgin has a fireplace, so we're going to take $2,000 away. We're going to reprimand him a little bit. Maxwell has no fireplace, no adjustments required, and Maple Lane does have a fireplace, so we're going to reprimand him a little bit by $2,000. The house style, we're not taking into consideration with our adjustments at the moment. So we've got 3 comparables. Our subject property still doesn't have any adjustments, but our comparable properties do. So our comparable property for Elgin Street at 352.3 has now decreased by $1,000. Maxwell Street has decreased by $3,600, and Maple Lane has decreased by $3,740. So now you can see these numbers are reflective a lot better for our comparable property than if we had taken them at face value. So in essence, at the end, and you can do this all through the MLS system, based on the above information analysis and using the direct comparison approach, the estimated value for the subject property is $354,000. And that is the sale price point that you would want to put on the table to Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Adjustments are made to the comparable sale. Adjustments are never made to the subject property. Your subject property hasn't been sold yet. So therefore you can't adjust the price point on that. What you're adjusting is the comparable properties and giving or taking away to bring them to the same value of your subject property. When a comparable is superior, a $- adjustment is used. When a comparable is inferior, a $+ adjustment is used. So we go back to the scale. We want balance. So if one property has something that your subject property doesn't, you're going to take a little away from that so that it's not weighing down the scale. If your subject property or your comparable property has something, or if your subject property has something that your comparable property doesn't, then you want to weigh that out as well. So you want to keep that scale as even as possible while you're going through your numbers. And that's where the pluses and minuses really come into factor. Adjustments are based on value, not cost. So the cost of developing or building is not necessarily as relevant as the cost associated with the value of having that property already at that level. Value estimated based on adjusted sale prices. So the value of your subject property ultimately is based on the numbers that you plus and minus from the comparables. And that's why this is such an important approach.